Alright, what is up everybody? Coming back at you with another video on the channel today. And today we have a newer knife with a newer release. As you can see there, Bad Habits Manufacturing. So I think they did some customs. That was their thing before. I think there's a custom version of this knife. And as I understand, this is their first production run. So they had this OEM'd in China. I think it was HP blades, something like that. But yeah, so I got this from River's Edge Cutlery. Shout out to River's Edge. Threw me a cool keychain in there. I always ship insanely fast. I actually got a Vero Engineering Impulse Thin from them. I ordered this on a Saturday morning at 8 a.m. They shipped it Saturday. Shipped it out on Saturday, like an hour later, and I had it on Monday, which is standard shipping. Hard to beat. But this is the box here. Full graphic on the back. Let's get right into it. So you do get a COA here, which is cool. Logo. The MoFo. S30V titanium frame lock. And we've got their signatures. And pretty basic on the packaging. Just got a foam insert in there, which, I mean, I don't care too much about the box anyways, to be honest with you. I'd rather get more knife and less box than more box and less knife. So here it is, guys, the Bad Habits Manufacturing MoFo. So this had a decent amount of variations. So as you can see, this is the drop point blade version. Now they had a Tanto, and the Tanto was pretty sweet, not gonna lie. But the Tanto with this two-tone with the black pivot collars, back spacer clip, and blade sold out pretty quick. While I did like the Tanto, this two-tone configuration just really did it for me. So I ended up going with the drop point with the two-tone. They did have a Tanto and just plain tie, just, you know, satin, plain satin blade, everything else, plain tie. I've got so many plain tie knives. I decided to go with the drop point to switch it up a little bit. So what we've got here, obviously a titanium frame lock. We've got a titanium pocket clip. You've also got a very nice titanium back spacer. I do believe it is titanium hardware. Not sure on the thumb studs. Frame lock design, you do have a lock bar insert there, which does double as an over travel stop. Lockup is a little early. Let me lock that up right. There we go. Pretty early at about 10%. I have done some spine wax and it has not failed. I might, when I take it apart and clean it, add a little bit of pressure to the lock bar just to strengthen that up a little bit. I'm not gonna hard use this one. You know, I do have knives I do carry to work and whatnot and use pretty hard. This probably ain't gonna be one of them. So right at 8.07 inches overall, 3.35 inches of cutting edge. Ergonomics are very comfortable. You've got kind of the dedicated finger choil here. And with my 2XL hands, finger goes, and I pretty much come right to the end here. But it does lock me in very good. A little bit of jimping back here where you never use it on the spine. Left-handed works very well as well. Pocket clip is not a hot spot at all, which it's actually a little sharp almost on the tip. But you really, I mean, barely feel it in the hand. So that's a plus. Do a couple quick size comparisons here. Got the Spyderco PM2. PM2 is a little bit bigger. We've got a Vero Engineering Axon Lefty. Let me flip it around so you can see. Very similar in size to the Axon, so that's a good comparison there. Got a Winter Blade Co. Factor. Quite a bit bigger than the Winter Blade Co. Factor. We'll throw a a nice one in there. I'll throw a Evo 3.0. So quite a bit bigger there. Gotta show off the Zirku tie clip. So overall, I would definitely call this a full-size knife. So we'll do it with the Bird Blade Sweeney because it's another similar sized. There you go. So at the 8-inch size there, definitely call that a full-size knife. So we've got a nice satin grind on the blade here. Got those really defined grind lines. I really like this satin finish here, belt satin. Check out their logo close up. Very nice. And I really like on this two-tone, keep hitting my camera. On this two-tone, it comes across the blade here, but it also goes down the spine of the blade. I thought that was pretty different and pretty cool. You have got the Bad Habits Manufacturing logo in there on the back spacer. Pretty sweet. You've got what they call kind of like a floating back spacer, how it goes in on the edges, and it almost looks like it's not attached. Got T8 hardware here. Pretty simple construction. You got your pivot screw and 2 body screws. You know, overall, it's not overcomplicated, but now let's talk about this action. Insane. I've only had I got this Thursday? Today's Saturday? Yep. I had it for 2 days. I like to play with it for a day or two before I review it. Detent is fantastic. No complaints at all there. Really snappy. Left or right-handed. I do really like these thumb studs. Kind of milled out there. Now, one of the small issues I did have was the thumb studs came loose. It worried me at first until I realized they can screw back together. So I tightened it down. If they do come loose again, I'll just throw a little bit of super glue on the threads and crank it back down, and that will solve that issue. So not much of an issue there. But action with the lock bar. Now, one thing, I don't know if it's a problem, but it's definitely something you notice. The lock bar, to disengage it, is very, very light. It takes basically no pressure to disengage that thing. When I first closed it, it kind of worried me, but I have absolutely zero lock rock. No blade play side to side. It feels absolutely solid. So this is running on bearings. You probably can't see. Not sure if they're ceramic. It looks like a brass cage. So I would imagine it's probably ceramic bearings. I haven't torn into this thing yet. When I do, I'll probably add a little bit of tension to the lock bar just to strengthen that lock up and give me a little bit better detent. Detent's great right now, don't get me wrong. It is fairly sensitive to pressure on the lock bar, so you can lock yourself down out of it if you grab it wrong. Being a lefty, not really an issue for me. And boy, does it snap out. Really pops, and then this action. Fantastic. It really is awesome action. Now, being the two-tone blade, I do believe it is coated down there where the detent track is, so that's still wearing through, and we've still got this amazing action. So once that breaks in, man, killer action on this thing. You've got some fairly thick blade still here, especially down to this tip. Came perfectly centered, as you can see. And for $285, I think this is a heck of a deal, guys. I really do like this knife. I loved it in the pictures. Obviously, you've got this milling on the scales that really stands out. Do we have... Yes, we've got quite a bit of internal milling in there to knock the weight down. It is still a little bit of a hefty knife, but, you know, it's kind of like an overbuilt type of deal going on there. The only other negative I might have is the plunge grind here. You can see we've already got a little bit of a smile right there on the factory sharpening. So any more sharpenings would only make that smile worse back there on the edge termination. Not a big deal for me because I'm not going to hard use this knife. All right, let me grab a piece of paper And we will do ourselves a cut test here. Let me cut the paper so I can cut the paper on camera. I would call that nice and sharp. Nice. If you can cut waves into paper, it is in fact sharp. So for their first production knife, I think they knocked this out of the park. The OEM did a fantastic job as well. QC seems to be pretty good. I actually can only find one full-length review on this, and it's by Neves Knives. Shout out to Neves. There's a couple shorts, but I wanted to get this video out, so if people are interested, especially in the drop point blade, as the most videos are of the Tonto, I wanted to show off the drop point, and it is a beautiful drop point blade. I really dig this thing. So these are still in stock at River's Edge Cutlery. They had the plain tie Tontos in stock. They've got this version, then they've got a full DLC drop point, blacked out, and a full black wash drop point. $285, heck of a deal, guys. For the money, you get a lot of blade here. Full size titanium frame lock. You do have a, looks like a 3D milled pocket clip. I thought it might be stamped, but looking at the base there, I do believe it's 3D milled. Pretty tight. I have to work it in a little bit, but other than that, everything about this thing is pretty awesome so far. You know, I'll do an update video if that changes, but right now, I'm digging it. As a lefty, I can kind of grab these notches back here and do a reverse flick, which is kind of cool. Normally, you got to either come up to the pivot or come down to the clip, but either way works. So, you do have also satin hardware. Nice and shiny, and I really like these pivot collars. The machine work is actually phenomenal on here. Very crisp. Everything just done really well. Yeah. Got a little scratch on there already. How about that? But yeah, that is the Mofo by Bad Habits Manufacturing. I did also get, as I showed, the Barrow Engineering Thin Pulse. Quite a large knife, but I am really digging it. Makes me really want an Axon XL. Yeah, big beast of a knife. So I will be doing a review of this one probably in the next week or so. There's not a ton of reviews on the Impulse Thin out there. So stay tuned for that. Like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to see more knife content. Check out some of my other videos if you want to review on any of the knives you've seen today and many more. I appreciate you guys watching, and have yourself a great day.